Boy offers his toy for food. Cashier can't contain her emotions. When 7-year-old Tyler walked into that Walmart supermarket in Memphis, Tennessee, wearing his worn-out clothes and pushing his blue toy cart, no one could have imagined what was about to happen. It was a rainy Tuesday in November, and the boy walked barefoot through the cold aisles, leaving small muddy footprints on the clean floor. His brown eyes shone with determination as he held on tightly to that cart, the only toy he owned, the only gift he had received last Christmas. Sarah Mitchell, the 34-year-old cashier who worked the afternoon shift, was having a difficult day. Financial problems, overdue bills, and the constant feeling that her life was stuck in an endless cycle. But nothing could prepare her for the encounter that would change not only her day, but her outlook on life. Tyler stopped in the food aisle, his little eyes fixed on the bread and milk shelves. He counted a few dirty coins he had taken from the torn pocket of his jeans. It was only 87 cents. The boy knew it wasn't enough, but he had to try. His mother, Jennifer, had been home for 3 days without eating, giving him the last crumbs of food she had left. She was sick, very sick, and Tyler didn't fully understand what leukemia was, but he knew his mother was getting weaker and weaker. "I need to feed Mom," he muttered to himself, picking up a plain white loaf of bread and a small bottle of milk. With his little hands shaking, Tyler walked determinedly toward the cashier. Some customers looked at the boy with curiosity, others with disdain. An elegant lady moved her purse away when Tyler passed by, as if poverty were contagious. But Tyler didn't notice these looks. His mind was focused on a single mission, getting food for his mother. Sarah saw the boy approaching and her heart sank. She had been working there for 5 years and had seen many difficult situations, but something about that barefoot boy, with that toy cart against his chest, touched a sensitive chord in her soul. Tyler placed the bread and milk on the counter carefully, as if they were precious treasures. Then, with a seriousness that didn't match his age, he placed the coins next to the items. "Is this enough?" Tyler asked, his voice so full of hope that it broke Sarah's heart. She looked at the coins, 87 cents, and then at the items that cost $6.50. Sarah swallowed hard, feeling a lump in her throat. "Honey, that's not enough for," she began, but Tyler quickly interrupted her. "I know, ma'am. But I have this," he said, holding out the blue cart. It was a worn cart, with scratches all over it, one was slightly bent, but it had obviously been well loved. "My dad gave it to me before he left. He said it was a special Hot Wheels. Maybe you can sell it, and I can take the food to Mom." Sarah felt tears begin to form in her eyes. She took the car carefully and saw that the base was engraved with childish handwriting, "To Tyler with love, Dad. Never give up." The tears she had been trying to hold back began to fall. Other customers in line began to pay attention to the scene unfolding. A woman covered her mouth with her hand, moved. A man in a suit discreetly wiped his eyes. The manager, Mark Thompson, who had been watching from a distance, began to approach with a stern expression, ready to deal with what he assumed was yet another problematic situation. But when he got close enough to hear the boy's words, something inside him broke. Mark had 2 children at home, well-fed, well-dressed, with rooms full of toys. And here was this boy willing to give up the only toy he owned to feed his mother. Sarah looked at Mark, her eyes pleading for understanding, for humanity, for an exception to the company's strict rules. And it was at that moment that something extraordinary began to happen. Mark Thompson looked at the boy, then at Sarah, and finally at the worn blue cart in Tyler's trembling hands. For 15 years, he had followed every rule in the company handbook, upheld every policy without exception, been the model manager the corporation expected. But in that moment, looking into those brown eyes filled with hope and despair, all those rules seemed absurdly insignificant. "Wait a moment," Mark said, his voice softer than Sarah had ever heard it. He turned to the customers watching the scene. "Could anyone here help this young man?" There was an awkward silence for a few seconds. Then an elderly lady in line, Mrs. Peterson, whom Tyler had passed moments before, stepped forward. She opened her wallet with trembling hands. "I'll pay for the boy's groceries," she said, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. "My grandson is the same age." "I can't imagine," her voice faltered. She placed a $20 bill on the counter. "Actually, get him and his mother a few more things. Fruit, something nutritious." "I want to help too," said a middle-aged man wearing a paint-stained construction uniform. He placed $15 next to Mrs. Peterson's bill. "My daughter went through leukemia. I know how hard it is." Suddenly, it was as if a dam had burst. One by one, people in line began to step forward. A young mother with a baby in her arms placed $10. An elderly couple contributed $30. Even the elegant lady who had pushed her purse away earlier approached, embarrassed, and discreetly slid $50 onto the counter without making eye contact. Tyler watched it all with wide eyes, not fully understanding what was happening. "Does that mean I can take the food to Mom?" he asked, his small voice almost lost in the hubbub of voices around him. "Yes, dear," said Sarah, kneeling down to be at the boy's eye level. "You can take the food. And a lot more." She picked up the blue cart and carefully returned it to Tyler. "But you get to keep your cart. This one is too special to sell. Your dad wanted you to have it." Tyler took the cart and hugged it to his chest, new tears, these of joy, beginning to fall. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you so much." Mark looked at the money that had been collected, $2.47. "Sarah," he said, "get a shopping cart. Let's put together a proper basket for this family." Sarah nodded, wiping her own tears, and began moving through the aisles with Tyler at her side. They filled the cart with fresh bread, milk, eggs, fruit, vegetables, chicken, rice, beans, pasta, and sauce. Sarah added vitamins, fever medicine, and even some cleaning supplies. Mrs. Peterson appeared holding a new, soft blanket. "For his mother," she explained. "To keep her warm." The construction man returned carrying a small portable heater. "It's getting cold," he said simply. The young mother brought some children's books. "For when Mommy is resting," she said to Tyler with a gentle smile. As they walked through the hallways, Tyler held Sarah's hand confidently, something he hadn't done since his father had left. "You're good," Tyler said to her. "Just like my mom is good." Sarah had to stop for a moment, the emotion threatening to overwhelm her completely. She thought of all the times she had complained about her life, her bills, her problems that now seemed so small. Here was a 7-year-old boy showing more courage and love than many adults show in a lifetime. When they returned to the checkout, there were even more people waiting. The news had spread throughout the supermarket, and employees from other departments had come to see. "Where does this boy live?" Mark asked. Tyler gave the address, a trailer park on the east side of town, known to be one of the toughest areas in Memphis. "I'm going to take him home," Mark said, to the surprise of everyone, including himself. "And we're going to take all these donations." He looked at Sarah. "Do you want to come along?" Sarah didn't hesitate for a second. The rain had intensified by the time Mark, Sarah, and Tyler loaded the bags into Mark's car, a 2015 Toyota Camry that now seemed too small for all the donations. The back seat was full, the trunk was overflowing, and Sarah held several bags on her lap while Tyler sat in the middle of the back seat, hugging his blue stroller as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. During the 20-minute drive to the trailer park, Tyler talked about his mother. "She used to work 2 jobs, he explained with the seriousness of someone much older. "She cleaned offices at night and worked at a laundromat during the day. But then she got really tired. The doctors said it was because of bad cells in her blood." Sarah felt her heart break again. "What about your dad, sweetie? Where is he?" Tyler was quiet for a moment, staring out the window at the rain. "Dad left when Mom got sick. He said it was too hard. But before he left, he gave me the car and told me to be the man of the house now." The boy's voice trembled. "I try to be strong like he asked, but sometimes it's really hard." Mark gripped the steering wheel tighter, his jaw tense. He thought about how he complained when his wife asked him to spend more time with their children after work. Here was a 7-year-old boy trying to be the man of the house, taking care of a sick mother, completely on his own. The trailer park was exactly as Mark had imagined, or worse. Rusty trailers lined up in uneven rows, some with broken windows patched with plastic, others with broken steps at the entrance. There was trash piled up in some corners, and the smell of mold and despair seemed to penetrate even inside the closed car. "It's that one," Tyler pointed to a faded white trailer at the end of the last row. It wasn't the worst of the lot, but it was far from livable by any decent standard. The small front window was covered with a thin blanket, and Mark could see duct tape holding a crack in the glass. They got out of the car, and immediately an elderly neighbor appeared at the door of her trailer. "Tyler, where have you been? Your mother is worried." Then she saw Mark and Sarah with all the bags, and her expression changed from irritation to confusion and then to hope. I brought food, Mrs. Davis. Tyler shouted, running toward the trailer. And good people helped me. He opened the rickety door, and Mark and Sarah followed him inside. What they saw made them both stop in their tracks, struggling to process the scene before them. The interior of the trailer was tiny, barely 15 square meters, containing a living area, kitchen, and bedroom, all in one. But what was striking was not the size, but the cleanliness. Despite the obvious poverty, every surface was spotless. There were no dirty dishes, no mess. The few clothes were neatly folded. It was the home of someone who maintained their dignity despite impossible circumstances. On the small worn sofa, covered with a thin blanket, sat Jennifer Williams. She was only 29, but she looked 40. Her face was pale, almost transparent, and there were deep dark circles under her eyes. But when she saw Tyler, her face lit up with such pure and intense love that Sarah had to look away, the emotion too much to bear. Tyler! My God, where have you been? I was so worried. Jennifer tried to get up, but she didn't have the strength. Tyler rushed to her and hugged her. Mom, I brought food. And good people. Look. Jennifer looked at Mark and Sarah for the first time, confusion and fear crossing her face. Who are you? What's going on? Her voice was weak, but there was a note of panic in it. Are you from social services? Please don't take my son away. I know things are tough, but I take good care of him. I swear I do. Sarah quickly knelt down beside the couch. No, sweetie. We're not from social services. Your son came to the supermarket where I work. He tried to buy food for you. She paused, her voice faltering. He offered his toy shopping cart as payment. Jennifer looked at Tyler, then at the cart still firmly clutched in his hands, and then began to cry, deep, anguished sobs that shook her frail body. No, Tyler, no. Not Daddy's cart. That's all you have. It's okay, Mom, Tyler said, stroking his mother's thinning hair. I still have it. Mrs. Sarah said it was too special to sell. And look how much food we have now. Mark began bringing in the bags, one after another, stacking them on the small kitchen table and counter. With each bag, Jennifer's eyes widened more. Fruit, vegetables, protein, cleaning supplies, medicine, the new blanket, the heater. Jennifer stared at the food with an expression of utter disbelief, as if she were seeing a mirage that could disappear at any moment. Her hands trembled as she picked up a bright red apple, caressing it as if it were something sacred. I don't understand, she whispered. Why? Why are you doing this for us? We're nobodies. Mark sat down in the only chair in the small space, feeling a lump in his throat. Because your son showed us what really matters in life, Mrs. Williams. He taught us a lesson that many of us had forgotten. He paused, choosing his words carefully. May I ask about your situation? With your health? How long have you been ill? Jennifer closed her eyes, tired. 6 months. Acute myeloid leukemia. I was undergoing chemotherapy at the public hospital, but without insurance, without money to continue proper treatment. Her voice trailed off. The doctor said that without treatment, I have maybe 6 more months. Maybe less. Tyler, who was organizing the soup cans in the cupboard like a seasoned adult, froze when he heard those words. He had heard this before, but every time it seemed more real, more frightening. Mom is going to be okay, he said with determination, even though his voice trembled. She has to be. I'll take care of her. Sarah had to leave the trailer for a moment, the emotion too much. She stood outside in the rain, letting her tears mix with the falling drops. How could the world be so unfair? How could a 7-year-old carry so much weight? How could such a young mother be dying simply because she couldn't afford treatment? Mrs. Davis, the elderly neighbor, approached Sarah. Are you okay, dear? Sarah shook her head. No, I'm not. This isn't right. None of this is right. Mrs. Davis sighed deeply. Jennifer is one of the best people I've ever known. When my husband died last year, she came here every day, even though she was sick herself, to check on me. She shared what little food she had with me. And that boy, the lady's voice faltered. That boy is an angel. He cuts my grass with kitchen shears because we don't have a mower. He reads me the letters my children send because my eyes aren't good anymore. Sarah wiped her eyes and went back inside the trailer, a new determination growing inside her. Mark was on the phone, his voice low but urgent. He was taking notes on a piece of paper. When he hung up, he looked at Sarah with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I called some contacts," Mark said. "I have a cousin who's an oncologist at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. They have an adult research program too. He said he can see Jennifer tomorrow, at no cost, to assess whether she qualifies for any of their clinical trials." Jennifer began to cry again. "I can't afford that. I have no way to." "Clinical trials are free," Mark interrupted gently. "They cover everything: treatment, medication, follow-up. Everything. There are no guarantees, but at least it's a chance. A real chance." He looked at Tyler, who was now sitting next to his mother, holding her hand. "Your son hasn't given up on you. We're not going to give up either." Sarah pulled out her phone. "I'm going to do something else. I'm going to post Tyler's story on social media. Not to expose you," she quickly added when she saw Jennifer's alarmed expression, "but because people need to know. They need to see that there are children like Tyler, families like yours, who need help. Maybe we can raise more funds to cover expenses while you're in treatment." Jennifer shook her head vigorously. "No. Please, no. I don't want to be charity. I don't want people to see us as objects of pity." Tyler looked at his mother, then at Sarah. "Mom, if it can help you get better, it's okay. I don't care what people think. I just want you to get well." Sarah knelt in front of Jennifer. "It's not charity, dear. It's community. It's humanity. Your son reminded us today that we are all connected, that one person's suffering should matter to all of us." She held Jennifer's cold hand. "Let us help. Please." Jennifer looked at her son, at this brave boy who had walked barefoot in the rain, who had offered his most precious possession, who had never complained or asked for more. She nodded slowly. "Okay. For Tyler. I'll do anything for Tyler." That night, after making sure Jennifer and Tyler had a hot meal, the first proper meal they had eaten in days, Mark and Sarah finally left the trailer. It was almost midnight. They had spent hours talking with Jennifer, making plans, arranging the doctor's appointment, connecting her with appropriate social services. In the car, neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Mark broke the silence. "I have 2 children at home. 2 healthy, well-fed boys with rooms full of toys they barely touch. And today I met a boy with a single toy car that he was willing to give up to feed his mother." His voice broke. "How can I go back to my normal life after this?" Sarah looked out the window at the rainy night. "I don't think we can. I don't think we should." Sarah posted Tyler's story that same night, at 2 in the morning, when she finally got home. She couldn't sleep, the image of that barefoot boy offering his blue toy car repeating endlessly in her mind. She wrote every detail with a bleeding heart, without dramatizing, just telling the simple, devastating truth of what she had witnessed. The next morning, when Sarah woke up after only 3 hours of sleep, her phone was exploding with notifications. The story had gone viral. Not just hundreds, but thousands of shares. Tens of thousands of comments. And most importantly, donations began to pour in. A crowdfunding page Sarah had set up for the Williams family had already raised $15,000. People from all over the country, and even from other countries, were contributing. $5 here, 20 there, some with 100 or more. But it wasn't just about the money. It was the messages that accompanied the donations that made Sarah cry as she read each one. "My son is the same age as Tyler. I can't imagine what he's going through. Here's $50. I hope it's enough to bring some comfort. Amanda, Ohio. I survived leukemia thanks to proper treatment. No one should die because they can't afford medical care. $200 from the bottom of my heart. Robert, California. My father taught me that we measure our humanity by how we treat the most vulnerable. Tyler showed us the way. $100. Chinwei, Taiwan. Local news picked up the story. That afternoon, a news crew was at the supermarket wanting to interview Sarah and Mark. Sarah, who normally avoided attention, agreed for one reason only: Tyler and Jennifer needed help, and the more people who knew about it, the more help might come. During the interview, Sarah couldn't hold back her tears. "That boy is only 7 years old," she said to the camera, her voice trembling. 7 years old, and he already understands something that many adults will never learn, that love is more valuable than any material possession. He was willing to give up the only thing he had, the only tangible connection to his father, to feed his mother. If that doesn't move us to our core, then we've lost our humanity. Mark was also interviewed. I've managed this supermarket for 15 years following rules and policies, he said. But today Tyler taught me that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply be human. To let our hearts guide our actions. He paused, moved. I'm going home today and I'm going to hug my kids tighter. I'm going to be thankful for every blessing I have. And I'm going to remember Tyler every time I feel like complaining about problems that, compared to his, are nothing. Meanwhile, at St. Jude Hospital, Jennifer was undergoing a battery of tests. Dr. Richard Morrison, Mark's cousin and one of the hospital's leading oncologists, personally supervised each test. Tyler sat in the waiting room, his blue wagon on his lap, swinging his legs that didn't reach the floor. A nurse, Patricia, sat down next to him. "That's a very nice stroller," she said kindly. Tyler looked at her and smiled, the first genuine smile anyone had seen from him in a long time. "My dad gave it to me. He told me to never give up." Patricia felt her heart tighten. "And you didn't give up, did you? You fought for your mom." "I'll always fight for her," Tyler said with absolute conviction. "She's my mom. She always took care of me, even when she was tired. Even when she was sick. Now it's my turn to take care of her." Hours later, Dr. Morrison came out with a serious expression. Tyler jumped out of his chair and ran to him. "Is my mom going to be okay? Please tell me she's going to be okay." The doctor knelt down to be at the boy's eye level. "Tyler, your mom is very sick. But we have a new experimental treatment that might help. I can't promise anything, but we're going to do everything we can. She's a fighter, just like you." In the days that followed, something extraordinary continued to happen. The crowdfunding campaign surpassed $100,000. Local businesses offered help. A construction company offered to completely renovate the trailer, new plumbing, proper insulation, new windows, all at no cost. A furniture store donated a hospital bed suitable for Jennifer, new furniture, quality bedding. A local businessman who owned several properties offered a small house, not a trailer, but a real 2-bedroom house, for the family to live in rent-free for as long as they needed. "My mother died of cancer when I was Tyler's age," he explained, with tears in his eyes. "No one helped us then. But I can help now." Sarah and Mark became central figures in this growing movement of kindness. They organized donations, coordinated volunteers, and ensured that every dollar was used appropriately. But more importantly, they visited Jennifer and Tyler regularly, not as benefactors, but as friends. As family. 3 months later, on a cold February morning, Tyler sat beside his mother's hospital bed. Jennifer had begun the experimental treatment, and although it was too early to know if it would work in the long term, she was already showing signs of improvement. Her color was returning. She could sit up for longer periods. She could hug her son properly. "Tyler," she said, stroking his hair. "You know you're my hero, right?" Tyler shook his head. "No, Mom. You're my hero. You never gave up, even when things were tough." Jennifer pulled him into a tight hug. "We're never going to give up. Not me, not you. We're fighters, right?" "Right," Tyler agreed, still holding his blue wagon. He looked at the toy, at the words engraved on the base, "Never give up," and smiled. His father may have left, but he had left Tyler with something more valuable than he knew. Not just a wagon, but a lesson. And Tyler had taken that lesson and transformed not only his own life, but touched the hearts of thousands of people.